You are listening to the Age of Heroes podcast, a podcast dedicated to pop culture, fandom, and the geek world. My name is JP Sarricolea. I am a digital creator committed to inspiring others to pursue their passions, their dreams, and goals. I am sitting down with creators and influencers from all walks of life to talk about their work, their experiences, and how to make a positive impact. Welcome to the show. Hello guys, how are you? This is JP Sarricolea. Welcome again to another episode of Age of Heroes, this week's episode of Age of Heroes. And today I have a good friend of mine, someone that I met years ago, Statue Forum, Jamie Baumann, also known, if you perhaps don't know her there because of forums, the format was that Decadico 7? Is that how?
Chirico?
The Chirico?
I think it's the Chirico. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's how I met you. I remember that. And and before I let her introduce herself, I just want to kind of share something that I remember so vividly that I still remember. This is how I met Jamie.
Oh, no.
It was an experience for me, but also an eye-opener. I remember I was in Statue Forum, and she was there. Of course, you know, we all have created our different personas. You know, that was back in the day. Now everything is on Facebook, so everybody's open. People can get to see your life, all of that. And I remember I got into this heated conversation. You know, if you're a statue collector, you know that everyone has a different opinion. And I started kind of going back and forth with her. I didn't know it was a her. I thought it was a guy. And I think someone jumped in and says, "Hey, you're talking to a woman." And to me, that was an eye-opener, Jamie, because you know, as a guy, sometimes you know, we live in a world where we think that it's only men, but there's also a lot of women in this hobby. Not only in the hobby, you know, not just as collectors, you know, also in the industry as producers, as creators, as people in the designing side, on the sculpting side. And sometimes we don't really pay attention to those things. And but to me, that was important. That was an eye opener. Later, during a few years later, I invited her to be part of the Statue Forum reviews team, and she was there too, and that's how we got to know each other even more. But I want to say, Jamie, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for taking the opportunity and for accepting my invitation. I'm grateful for that.
Thanks for asking me. I'm kind of shocked.
Yeah. This is the thing, because, you know, one thing that I'm doing with the podcast, and we were talking about it, I was letting you know before we started doing, started recording this, is that in coming to the podcast this year, it's been a year since I uploaded anything, and I decided to change the format where it's going to be more. Prior to this, it was more like tech talk. You know, I was just sharing my opinion. Now it's more about bringing other people into to this and asking about their lives, and also asking about their perception and their opinion in reference to the industry, and any industry, primarily anything that has to do with arts. And I was thinking, because I've been interviewing a lot of guys, and I need a woman. I need a woman's perspective. And the first person that came to mind was you, because technically you were, honestly, the first woman that I ever met, at least even it was through, in this case, through Statue Forum, as a collector, you know, and really show me that there was not just a men's world, that there's also, it's multicultural. There's people from all around the world, but also it's no division in reference to gender, you know, whether it's men or women, you know, a lot of people, we share the same passion, the same love for the art. So I want to say that was the reason why I invited you. And I want to ask you this, because I never really asked how you got into all of this, how you got into collecting, not just the art.
That's a long history. Of course, it's like anybody, it started with comics. I got into comics in like high school. And then started reading like Spawn, and really enjoyed like those female characters. And all of a sudden, you know, you have all these Spawn figures coming out. So I started collecting like the Angela and the Tiffany figures. So I had all the female like McFarlane figures collected. And of course, once you get your foot into one hobby, then it kind of leaks into another. So then I started collecting like the Gentle Giant, like Harry Potter and Star Wars busts, you know. And then I think I started getting into like the forums through those. And then all of a sudden one day I saw the Emma Frost comiquette, and that's really what started this illness.
Yes.
So from there on, it just got worse and worse. You start like, I think those were like 1/5 scale, and I'm like, I'm never gonna buy a premium format. They're too expensive.
Uh-huh.
It's so funny because back then a premium format was $250. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I'm never gonna be able to afford those. And you say that, and then all of a sudden, then you're going to premium formats, and I'm never going to buy like 1/3 scale. There now I'm in the 1/3 scale. So it's been so gradual, for so long, and yeah, so pretty much comics to figures to busts and now statues. So yeah,
It's like, I don't know. This is one thing about, you're right. When you start into this, you see one piece and you're like, okay, this is beautiful. I want to get it. But then you want to
yeah,
complete a collection, and all of a sudden you're all in buying a lot more than you can bargain for. And you never know. It's like a never ending story. Do you
right.
think you have any control of it? That's, like, do you think you manage that better now than what you did before, or how you feel about it as a collector?
I actually think with how saturated the market is, you have to have more control. I remember when I started like with those comiquettes,
Mm-hmm.
there were so few female statues being done that when they did get released, I would grab them
Mm-hmm.
no matter what. Even if it was a character I didn't like really know, I'd
Mm-hmm.
grab it because
Yes.
there were so few. Like you'd see one like every 2 years. So
Mm-hmm.
n- now you have to have control. There's just so much. And I think that actually helps you focus more because there is so much. I don't know.
Do
So
Do you have any direction in your collection, or you have done different things, or is anything that you kind of concentrate on?
I want to believe I do, but I don't think I do. I mean, I try to get what I really really love because you're spending so much money on them that
Mm-hmm.
it's like it's got to be a piece you're going to keep because the secondary market is not what it used to be.
Mm-mm.
So it's like I don't want to get a piece where it's like I like it, but in 2 years I'm going to sell it. I want to get ones that I know will actually stay in my collection for long term
Mm-hmm.
just because of the price. And if I decide to sell, the secondary market isn't really anything anymore. So,
Yeah, one thing that it's happened
yeah,
to me is that back in the day, like you were saying, it was easier to, if you don't like something, or you want to change your collection, or it was easier to sell. You can go to the forums and sell it
right,
there directly, even before Facebook was a thing. Or you could go to eBay and it was easier. But now it has
hmm,
become so complicated that I haven't really sold anything
right,
on eBay for a long time.
yeah. I just remember, like, I don't know, like years ago, you could buy a piece and sell it for almost 3 times the price, and it
Yep.
was great. Or at least get your money back. Now it's like you're
Forget
not
it.
going to. Yeah, yeah,
And what do you think about this? Now that you mentioned that, you brought up the state of the industry right now with pricing. What is your opinion? And I know it's a loaded question because there's so many factors, but what do you think about the market right now in reference to pricing and accessibility? Is it, you think this bubble is going to burst at some point? Is unreachable for most collectors? The prices that we're seeing now. What do you think?
I used to always have that opinion every time the prices would go up. It's like, oh, it's gonna fail. The market's gonna crash and all that, and it would happen all the time. Now I just really don't care. What happens. I just want my pieces.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't think of it in that way anymore. Like, oh, pieces are reaching 700 to 1500 now. Oh, the market's going to crash. Something's going to happen. I really don't have that frame of mind anymore
Mm-hmm.
just because I've had it for so long and nothing really happened. So I don't really look at it that way.
Yeah, I think
So,
I share that same view. Actually, I was having a discussion with someone. I think someone posted something about it on a Facebook group yesterday, and I just told them it, like, this is not new, nothing new. It always happens. It's
mhm,
been since I
yeah,
started this. Like you said, when I started, the premium formats were 250. A comic kit was 200 or something like that, and now it's like it's unthinkable to see those prices.
Yeah.
I remember when the first 1/3 scale statues came out. I think when they were at $400-$500, the first 1/3 scale statue, and that was
Mm-hmm.
unthinkable then. You're thinking that's too much money, but now you're looking at some of them going into the $5,000-$6,000 mark. But of course, you're talking about huge
Yeah.
pieces. It's just and it's a never-ending story. It continues to go up, but the hobby is a lot bigger now than it was. Like
Mm-hmm.
10 years, 15 years ago. What do you think about all these new collectors in America? Because it's a different game now. They have a lot of young collectors. What do you think about the new community that we have?
Uh, It's hard for me to say because I'm not quite as active
Mm-hmm.
as I used to be. Like, I don't get on Statue Forum. I might get on there maybe once or twice a year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Facebook, I try not to be so active because some of these groups are a little, they're run by certain people. And a lot of these people are, I don't want to say this, but a lot of them, are being kind of persuaded by
Mm-hmm.
companies. So I try not to be active in those because I know a lot of the opinions are being bought.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, you know what I mean? Like a lot
Yes.
of your social media people that are getting free pieces or getting, pushed to do, you know, have positive. I just don't trust a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds bad. I don't know. So because of that, I kind of stay out of the groups and I just go with what I see in like my Facebook feed
Mm-hmm.
once in a while. But yeah, I'm not really overly active in the community anymore. Yeah, it's really strange.
I
So
I think you get. I was talking to someone. I think we all get jaded after a while, particularly in social
yeah,
media, because, like you said, I think there are two opposite sides in social media. You have the people who are edgy all the time, the ones that want to incite to um, some type of commotion, some type of fight with the companies too. There are people doing that, and they do that for views or for support to make their
mhm,
communities grow. Because as long as there's someone claiming something is bad, always going to be someone in support of that, and that is one
mhm,
opposite side, and is a very toxic environment. And then on the other side, you got the other people that they just, like you said, they're bought by these companies in some way,
mhm.
whether it's because they get free samples or whether they get paid for promotion, and they only sing the praises. So there's nothing in between, and you feel like you're trapped in,
Right.
like, yeah, I want a moderate
Genuine.
opinion, genuine opinion, yeah. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, it seems that we don't have that anymore. Do you think that that is also one of the reasons why a lot of people ultimately, particularly older collectors, they are quitting this? Is one of the reasons why they're doing that? Because I've seen a lot of collectors saying, I'm done with this hobby, I'm moving on. You think that is in part has to do with that?
I think it's a lot of things. I think it's cost. Yeah, social media like burnout. Um, yeah, it's a lot of things, I think. That's kind of what happened to me. I just got burnt out too much.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Especially social media, Facebook, there's just so much being pushed at you. Yeah, it's too much, I think. Too much burnout watching some of these people.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I want genuine like opinions. I want to watch people that are actually genuinely excited about stuff. And a lot of these people you find out that their companies are just giving them statues for, good reviews. It's like, and I see that a lot. Like I read a lot of like books now,
uh-huh.
like the omnibuses and all that. And it's the same way. You'll watch these content creators and they'll be like, "Oh, it's so good." And you read it and it's like the worst, most boring book. It's like, I don't even want to, YouTube, I used to watch it so much and now it just feels like a lot of it's not genuine.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I,
yeah.
I totally, I feel the same. And I was talking to another content creator for the podcast. And I don't know if you remember Statue Hunter 75. I was talking with Dean.
Yeah.
We were conversing, and the podcast is going to be one of the episodes. We were conversing about how things used to be back then. I felt that like, you know, I started making videos, content in YouTube like 10 years ago. I just turned, like, my channel turned 10 years old. But I remember that
Wow.
I started because I was watching videos, people like him, and there were other content creators doing videos. And I says, hey, I want to do that too, because I'm a collector and I want to share what I have. But when I'm looking at this stuff, I felt that it was more natural. That people were producing content for just for the fun of it. You know, they were conversing, talking, sharing, talking, pointing the bad and the good and all that. It never felt like it was a commercial thing. And now I feel that a lot of content creators, because everybody's a content creator now, whether you go to Instagram, whether you go to Facebook or YouTube or any other platform, even LinkedIn now has content creators. But what I'm saying is, you know, I feel that it's so, you know, and you are a graphic designer, if I'm not mistaken, too. So you have,
Right.
so you know that everything is so pretty to the point that it's very unnatural. You know, everything is in a way they make it look so good. Whether it's the content, of course, you know, you have to do things the best you can. But I feel that we have lost that ability to express ourselves, so to actually talk in a natural way. And I feel that it's more and more common in this hobby. Like,
Does Statue Hunter do videos anymore? I remember his because I think they're always on his kitchen table, and they're
yes,
great because you could actually tell like he liked the statues. You know, he
yeah,
was enthusiastic about them. Where these people now, it's like, oh, here's another statue. You know,
he doesn't do it
so
as much, but he has to do. Of course,
yeah.
he got married, he has kids. He also lost his parents, you know, I think a few years ago. So it's a lot of things that happen. You know, life. You know, you kind of go through the motion of things. I think his channel's still up, and he now collects. I think he collects cards, like sports cards, and he talks about
Oh,
those. And
okay.
from time to time, he throw a statue or whatever. But he's not as, you know, as prevalent as he was. But I remember that it was a time where that was his format. He was the biggest channel
Yep.
in
Yeah.
the medium. And like you said, I love and the way he did it, because like you said, it was a kitchen table.
Yeah.
There's no special lighting. It's just regular lighting, and ultimately, that's how you're going to see the piece. Because most of us, we don't have this special lighting or whatever. We may have some lighting, but for the most part, a lot of collectors are going to put their pieces in a dark room, or they're not going to have the professional lighting per se. So you want to see it like that. You don't want the fake filter or anything that actually kind of hides some of the imperfections. You want to see it as it comes out of the box. And he just talked about it with a lot of fun. And I feel that some of that, unfortunately, we don't get to see as much. Everybody's just trying to make it. Everybody tried to appease the companies or trying to get something for free, unfortunately.
Right. Yep.
Now, let me ask you this, because I know that you as a woman, you are in a sea of a lot of men in this hobby. There are other women. I have met a lot of collectors and some content creators as well. But you are a rarity in some way. There's not many women in this hobby. And do you think that it's harder for a woman to be part of this hobby because of it? Because you're surrounded with so many men sharing
I
men's
think I'm just
opinion?
so used to it now, and I think there are way more female collectors now, but I remember back in the day when I started, it was really hard. A lot of guys didn't take me seriously, you know, oh, you're just a woman, you know. I
Mm.
remember that when I started, you know, I think there was two other female collectors, Amber and her sister at the time.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I remember like coming in and you know, there's so many male opinions. And when I joined there, her sister was like, "Oh, welcome," you know, probably because she thought, you know, I was like one of the, you know, only female collectors, you know, and they're so welcoming. And, but yeah, it was really hard to um, share my opinion and have people take me seriously at that time. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that is unfortunate, because and I saw it too over time. You know, I saw it. You know, I'm a guy, so I'm going to see the world from this glasses of a man. That's not gonna change. But it can get, sometimes the conversations can get a little bit more on the male side, even when it has to do with the art, you know, and with the pieces and the statues. And of course, people I seen a lot of times they bring their opinions into the communities, whether it's forums, whether there is, of course, Facebook, and they say things that are a little disrespectful towards women. And but sometimes
Yeah.
it seems to me that men don't realize that also women are watching and they're also reading the
Hmm.
comments and they're also part of the community. And that to me, it's unfortunate, but most of the time, I think the only way to change is if you are on the other side. I am. I think what really made me change my perspective a lot of things is because I'm a father and I have one daughter. That's all I have. And of course, now she's grown. She's married. She's 22. But I saw how difficult the world is. We live in a man's world, you know, and in some way, there's everything is stacked against women in some way. And I feel that in the hobby, it kind of feels like that. I think the companies sometimes they just cater to the male audience. Do you feel that there is a change on that? Do you think that companies still are catering just to the males instead of catering to women?
I don't think so. I I just remember this brought up like a situation not too long ago. Tweeterhead,
Mm-hmm.
Chad, the owner, he sends out emails and it's always like, "Hey guys." I'm like, "Wait a second." And I I
Yes, he
actually
does.
talked to David Eichel and I messaged him. I'm like, he shouldn't be saying just like, "Hey guys," in his emails. There are female collectors.
Yes.
So I just remember that came up in my mind. It's like, and that was only a year or two ago.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there is definitely more female collectors now. You shouldn't be addressing your, you know, what do you
Just
call it? Like the
your male audience,
people
yeah.
collecting your stat. You're right, right. So I thought that was kind of weird. I'm like, you shouldn't be saying that. There's definitely more people collecting your statues now. It's not just guys. So they probably rolled their eyes, at me when I
When you
messaged
said
them.
it,
But
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But it does make
So,
sense, like we talk about inclusion a lot, and
oh, yeah.
it's something that has been done. But honestly, when I come to think of it, women are a big part of this, not only as collectors but also as creators, as artists. There's some of the best sculptors in the industry. Some of the people that I follow, that I admire the work they have done over the years, are women. And whether they're sculpting, whether they're painting, whether they're also being seamstress, even doing the premium format stuff, or designing, even in the comics, some of the best artists. But I unfortunately, most of the time, you only get to see the praise for men rather than women, which is unfortunate because there's so many talented women. Like, if I want to look at, like, for example, I'm talking about sculptors. You're looking at, I forgot their names, but there's a lot of sculptors that say in Asia. I see in Asia they have this where there's a lot of sculptors and they have a more appreciation for women doing a lot of sculpting. Companies like J&D, of course, Hot Toys, all these companies have a lot of women doing
Mhm.
the biggest art. I don't think sometimes I see that for American companies. Do you think that there is a difference there, culturally wise? Which is strange because I know like Asian
Um,
cultures tend to be a little more traditionalist, but when it comes about art, you get to see more artists in the forefront, women.
I don't know if I really watch like who does statues anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not I don't follow a lot of the sculptors on, which is sad. I remember back in the day, I'd know all the sculptors like, Tim that did the comiquettes, and
Mm-hmm.
now
Tim Miller.
I don't even really pay attention anymore to them just because there's so many. They used to have one artist do one statue. It was so easy to remember. Now it's like they got these teams of people, so I don't really keep track. But you mentioned like the statue world. Well, comics, I think that's way different. Like a lot of your cover artists, like Jenny Frison or whatever her name
Mm-hmm.
is, she's huge.
Mm-hmm.
She's doing so many covers now. So yeah, I think women are getting more recognition now than they ever did before. I think there's more women artists out there.
Mm-hmm.
I hope there is in the statue world, but I mean, I could see it in comics. A
Yes,
lot of the big cover artists are now women,
women.
which is cool. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about some of the names, but some of my favorite are, comic creators, comic artists are women. I love the
Yeah.
work they do, and I just feel that in some way, I'm not sure that I'm just maybe just my perception, which perhaps is what it is, but I feel that even here in the Western, I would say the Western part of the industry of the hobby of statue collecting or toy collecting, there are women, but mostly there's more males. You know, more
Oh
guys
yeah,
doing the
definitely.
work. While I go and look at the in Asia, Japan, Korea, in China, there's a lot of women and doing amazing, fantastic art that it's blows my mind. And
Mhm.
the likeness and the quality and stuff. I just feel that there's a, which is strange, like I was saying earlier, because you know when you think about Asia, you think a more traditionalistic world. You know, like they are more, they're not as open in some instances in certain things, but when it comes about art, they're really open to that women touch. You know, women being part of it. It's
Mhm.
strange. How do you how do you feel as things progress in this hobby? How do you think that? What do you think? How you feel in reference to the hobby as it moving forward and it's expanding and it's growing and we get to see a lot of different art, better art than before. What? How do you think about it? What do you think about it? Is it, is there is a future for this industry as it goes, or you think it's gonna disappear at some point with so much products in the market?
I have no idea. Um, I mean, it's been going for years. I don't see why it wouldn't continue. Um, I don't know. I'm to the point where I've reached my max. I'm maxed out on space.
Mm-hmm.
Things are getting too expensive. I think a lot of people, well, we've seen it through the years. People just drop off when they've hit their limit. There's always going to be these people that have more disposable incomes that'll probably just keep it going. I don't know. It could become the statue hobby could become like comics. Look how much they're hurting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, I could keep saying stuff like, "Oh, I think it's gonna stop." People will only spend so much money. But like I said, in the past, we always had that frame of mind, like, "Oh, if they go up more, I'm done." And here we are. I
Yeah.
think it's just probably gonna keep going. I don't. Maybe um, we're gonna have some kind of innovations coming in
Mm-hmm.
that'll make statues more, where you're going to be more willing to spend money. I don't know. I mean, these are like fantasy characters.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to want to spend, $2,000 on a quarter scale statue, even if it has like lifelike skin or something? I don't know. I doubt it. I think there's going to be some kind of limit or wall eventually, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't, I keep saying that year after year, and it's like it just keeps getting more expensive and more people are still coming into it. I don't know. No idea.
Now, in reference to the art, because you know we have seen this evolution, and there's always going to be um, this divide between people who prefer the old ways and people who are open for the new ways. Do you think in my opinion, the art is better, but do you think that the old art still holds as it was at some point? Like you were talking about the comic heads by Tim Miller, for example. Tim Miller, I love his art. He blew my mind when those started coming out. It was just like the most realistic thing you can get to see. Nowadays, of course, you get to see other things. But do you think the old art still stands, still holds, good? People still like it. Do you think there's still value in it?
I think I mean, obviously people are still trying to get a hold of those older pieces. Like I had the Rogue comic hat and I
Mm-hmm.
just sold it. And obviously there's people out there trying to get those maybe because they're new to the hobby and they can't afford the newest stuff,
Mm-hmm.
or they're nostalgic. Y- I don't know. Like you said, there's different groups.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody can afford these really high-end collectibles anymore, so I think they're kind of going to grab up those older ones. Um, like me, I don't have a ton of money to spend on statues, so I'll skip some, hoping that later on I can get it, for a cheaper price. So you got those people too, like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, I didn't get it when it first came out. Now I'm gonna jump back, and go buy that older piece. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if that answers your question. I think it's a mix.
Yes.
I think there is still appreciation for older pieces, because you got people that are backtracking, And then you got people coming in that don't have such a high income that are settling with the older pieces.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, I
I
think.
used to have the Patient Zero premium format, and that thing was beautiful. It's like I have no pieces to put with this thing, so I ended up selling it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, man, I wish I really regret selling that piece because yes, it was old. It's
Mm-hmm.
old. It's dated, but that thing's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
The paint is, I would say, as good as any modern paint now, and the tailoring on that thing was just fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I would almost like to go buy that piece again just because I do regret selling it. It was great. It
Mm-hmm.
had a lot of great qualities about it that I think even now, you know, it looks good. So I don't know.
Mm-hmm. So
That's a
what
whole mess of opinions.
it is. And in reference, you mentioned this about quality. Do you think that there was better quality back then than what it is now? What we get to see now?
No, it depends. Like take Sideshow for example. They're obviously the company that's been around the longest.
Mm-hmm.
They had some really flat, terrible quality. We
Yeah.
all know that.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden they had come out with these like their own, whatever you call it, their own line, that zombie line, the dead or whatever.
Okay.
That they were great. Great paint. I think because they could put more money into it, they can invest more into the
Yes.
production because it was their line.
Correct.
So, some of their pieces are really great, like that Patient Zero. That thing was just immaculate,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But then, they'd have like the X-Men line. Oh, the first line of X-Men statues was just it was it had issues. So it was a mix. It all depended on, you know, I'm sure the license,
Mm-hmm.
the money a sideshow stuck into it, it's a mix. So
So what are the things that you're liking right now Sideshow doing? Of course, Sideshow has become so big that they're also concentrated on distributing for other companies. But when they bring their stuff, they bring their stuff. And do you like the new stuff that they're coming up with? The stuff that they're creating?
geez, are they even releasing anything new? I don't, um well, I'm collecting that fairy tale,
Okay,
fantasy fairy tale line that I like.
the Scott Campbell, yeah.
That's really, I'm trying to think of what else I ordered from them lately. I don't think anything because I don't want to focus on X-Men anymore. Um,
I think the one small and actually I think price is affordable that I've been paying attention to is the Vox Machina collection that they just came up
oh,
with, and I think the piece that really looks is beautiful. I was at forgot the name of the character, but they have some in the presentation last year, or it was last year or the year before in Sideshow Con. But I like that stuff. I like it. I personally like when Sideshow deviates a little bit from the
mhm,
traditional, like you said, the
right.
Marvel DC stuff, another Batman, and they go into some of this more obscure or
Yep.
upcoming franchises, and they start building stuff from there. I think that's when the quality of their artists they have, because they have plenty good artists, it really shines. Um,
Mhm.
is there any company that right now you're looking at and you're saying, "Wow, they're doing like amazing work"? Is it a company that is blowing your mind?
Oh, no.
No.
um, mm, I don't know how to pronounce. I don't even want to say that. They're all kind of equal to me. There's no one
Okay.
really standing out. I don't really look at company either. I'm just like, okay, there's the piece I like. Oh, they're doing okay. I just kind of buy randomly now.
Mm-hmm.
There's no one that I'm like, well, I'm sticking with them. That doesn't exist anymore
Mm-hmm.
with me. Just trying to think like where my focus is. Tweeterhead, like their Masters of the Universe or whatever,
Okay.
their He-Man line. That I'm kind of focusing on, but I only want the females. Well, we've
Mm.
seen one. So now my focus is somewhere else until we see the next female from that line. So then I got Fairy Tale Fantasies. Well, how many times do we see one of those? Maybe once every 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now I got to move on.
Yes.
So then I think Prime One is probably my favorite. I'm trying to do like a display. I love the Batman movies.
Uh-huh.
So I got like, the Phoenix Joker and Bane from
Mm-hmm.
Dark Knight Rises. I'm trying to get all my favorite characters in like one third.
Mm-hmm.
So they kind of have a lot of my focus. Like they did the Michelle Pfeiffer Catwoman. I'm getting her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Who else? I'm trying to think of what else I've ordered. Oh, is it Weta? Is that how you say their name?
What a yeah, what a workshop.
Yeah, they started doing like the Labyrinth line, so that has my
Yeah.
focus. And it's so funny because I'm like, oh, good. I just need like a one-third Catwoman. Prime One did it. I just need these couple pieces and then I'm done. And then these companies bring new lines out, like Weta with Labyrinth, and then it just starts all over again.
I know.
So,
Yeah, because it's funny when
um,
people say I'm done after I'm with this, my collection is done, and in my mind I'm thinking you're never done. Unfortunately,
yeah,
even when you
yeah,
think you're done, somebody's going to bring something that is going to be even superior to what you have, and then you're going to feel
oh
like,
yeah,
you know what, this is not worth my attention and now, so I'm going to switch. And it's a constant rat race trying to keep up. But I
oh
think
yeah,
one of the problems that I share with you, the same sentiment as become more a seasoned collector, it's become more and more complicated to stick with one particular collection. Um,
yeah.
because there's so much art. Like if I look at my collection, I would say to people stick with one theme, but over time, over the years, that theme becomes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Also, you have no theme. You're just simply collecting what you like. And ultimately, you end up in the same place we're saying it to people: hey, just collect what you love, whatever
Right.
you have your attention. Because I have, whether Star Wars, Marvel, DC, Transformers, you name it, Lord of the Rings. It's so much stuff that to me, it's like it's hard for me not to look at it. When I look at something, it's like, hey, I need to have it, whether it fits or not. It's just something that unfortunately becomes kind of like an addiction in itself. Do you think there's a cure for this addiction in some way? Because I know some people have the power just to say, you know what, I sell everything and I'm out of here. And I've seen people doing that, which to me, that's a
Mhm.
lot of strength that I definitely don't have. Do you think it's possible to do it? To quit cold turkey on this?
I think so. Yeah. Like I said, I'm to the point where there's really no other. I mean, there's maybe one or two characters that I would like statues of, but I know they're never going to be done. You know. And I also, you start to get this frame of mind where it's like you got to buy pieces that you're, really happy with. You're going to live with,
Mm-hmm.
and then just be content. They're always going to bring out a new Psylocke.
Mm.
Be content with the one you have.
Yes.
You know. I mean, I always have it like, oh, I'll be done soon. I just need these two characters, and I, yeah, I don't know. I'm just all over the place. Like, part of me wants to be done, and part of me just enjoys it so much.
Mm-hmm.
I think I have it in my head right now that by 2025 I want to be done,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I'm actually gonna do it. I hope. Yeah. There's just I don't know. I have like two personalities that are just
Mm-hmm.
fighting right now.
I know.
Um, I think I almost have to be done just because I've reached my limit with prices,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know if you could see behind me. Like my uh, asking me is kind of different because I don't have any statues on display right now, just
Mm-hmm.
because I'm so limited with space. I think you could probably see I just have Angelus over. That's it.
Yes.
That's the only statue I have on display. So my frame of mind is different from those people that have them on display. Like me, it's like, okay, I've lived so many years now, I think
Mm-hmm.
3 years without having any of these on display. I can just let them go. I really could,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And I was thinking about that yesterday. I'm like, I could really just sell all of them right now and not, it probably wouldn't bother me that much. I just can't open them.
Yeah.
That's where the problem's gonna start. If I open, I'll be like, oh, it's so beautiful, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm just all over the place when it comes to something like that. Like you ask a lot of my friends, it's been, 15 plus years of me saying, "Hey, I'm gonna quit. I gotta quit." You know,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know really how to answer that because I've been so all over the board. I know people can do it.
Mm-hmm.
I just haven't been able
Being
to.
able to do it, yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I think I can share the same because I have a lot of stuff. Put it this way, and I know you feel the same way. I have a lot of stuff that is coming this year that I pre-order,
Mhm.
whether it's diecast models, whatever, big diecast models, and I don't know where I'm gonna put them. I don't have space for them.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
just maybe it was FOMO, with, the fear of missing out, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna buy it, and then sometimes there's a lot of stuff over the years that I sold at some point that I never got out of the of the box. Got to the point just to took it out of the
Mhm.
box just to take pictures for the buyer, whatever the buyer, and that was it. But sometimes I think if I would have not got into this hobby, maybe I would have more money. Maybe I would be able to travel the world as I always wanted to. Maybe if I sell everything, now I'm gonna be able to travel. But now I'm older and maybe I'm a little more tired, and maybe I don't have the same stamina or strength that I had when I was in my 20s to do it.
Yeah.
But definitely, I feel that a collectors are just born that way. I that's something that I realized a long time ago. There's something we're just a special breed, perhaps. We just love certain things. And what do you think about that? Do you think that a collector is born or something, or someone that is just made into a collector because of experience or because of life? What do you think about that?
Oh, I have no idea. I don't know. Um, I don't I mean, I could say that, like, I have the collector gene because, like, my grandma, she used to collect, like, resin, like resin pieces where you'd paint them and,
Uh huh.
put them in a kiln, and she used to do that, and she was real creative. My dad was creative.
Mm-hmm.
I don't maybe I have some kind of collecting gene. I don't know. I think I mostly got into it because I always had, like, these female heroes to look up to.
Mm-hmm.
That's kinda why I started, like, "Oh, Jean Grey, she just was my hero," and I wanted a representation of her. Angela
Mm-hmm.
from Spawn Comics, she was my hero. I think it all kinda stems from that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
to me, they give me confidence and, I just want a representation of them in my life. So I think that's kinda how it kinda originated with me
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in a way. I don't know.
I,
So, I
I,
mean, I was a nerdy kid, we
mm-hmm.
need our heroes, that probably makes no sense, but I don't know.
I think it makes sense to me. Because I don't know. I just because even though sometimes I think like if I had gotten into this, maybe I'd be doing something else with my life, another hobby or something else. But I don't see myself doing anything else. At least anything else as a hobby. There's everybody has hobbies. I remember many jobs that I had in the past. Different companies that I work. And I work with just females, which I love anyway. I always have a better relationship with women, working with women. But I remember when I used to work with a lot of guys, and as much as I like sports, because I like sports when I was young, I played sports as a kid, as a teenager. I never really felt the need of sports. Like guys that they just every day it's all about talking about sports. That wasn't my thing. It's not my thing, talking about sports or go hunting or fishing. My dad took me all those things, but it was never my thing. Like, okay, I did it with my dad. I
Mhm.
had great memories, but as an adult now, I just prefer just to read a comic book. I still
Yep,
do.
yep,
I just have
yep,
fun with them and to read a book, to read comics. I still go to bed almost every night and I read comics to fall asleep.
yep, yep.
I have a great catalog. I'll go back and forth with all different comics and manga. I still love,
Mhm.
the art, the statues. I don't see myself outside of being a geeky guy. And which back in the day, it was like people would make fun of you. Even I remember as a statue collector, I didn't want to tell my coworkers back then, hey, I'm a statue collector. And sometimes I get these packages to my job. And I just didn't tell them exactly
And
what it
none of them
was.
understand it.
No, they
Yeah,
like,
they're like, "What do you do? What do you with statues? What?"
yeah, they're looking
Yeah,
at it and
so
it's,
they
oh,
don't
that's,
understand it.
and the funny thing is when they start looking at it, when you open it for them to look and you're so proud of what you're showcasing to them, all of a sudden, oh, that's a nice toy. And I was like, I just get like,
Yeah.
it's like you stab me in the heart. Like I feel like a toy. In some ways they
Yeah,
are, but
yeah.
you know, it's not like you're playing with them. But like you said, they just represent heroes that we admire from
Yeah.
childhood. You know, a lot of these characters,
Mhm.
you know, I grew up reading their stories. And some characters, I wish companies would pay more attention. Like, for example, like we were talking about, like, there's characters that I would have loved for, like, Sideshow to produce, and they haven't ever produced, or they have produced in a way that is not
Mhm.
necessarily what I wanted. The Fantastic Four, for example. I grew up, I loving the Fantastic Four as a kid, reading the comics. My favorite comic book. And up to this day, we haven't seen. We just had we got the Think PF a long time ago. We
Yeah.
have the what was that, the Sue Storm comic cat that was done at some
Mhm.
point. I had that as well. But we never had a full team. We have the little diorama. But that's the thing
Mhm.
that, you know, sometimes you get disappointed with, because companies keep producing the same thing over and over and over
Wolverine,
again.
Batman, Wolverine, Batman. Yeah.
But like you were saying earlier, and it's so true, you just get used to it. And I know a lot of new collectors, they just like get offended or they get upset about it. But the truth matters that it's been happening. In order for them to produce, and you know, one character that nobody really wants, they have to produce the same character over and over, which is Batman, because it sells. Do you think that just that the constant reproduction of the same character, does that kill some of that inspiration, at least for in the art, because now artists are limited just to produce the same thing over and over?
Um, mm, it's really hard to ask me because I just had to me it's like, oh, you're doing another Wolverine. Hey, money saved. Cool. You know,
That's a good point.
um, you know, if they're making the money on it and people want them, go ahead. I don't care. You're just helping me save money. So that's kind of how I look at it too. It's like, oh, you're making that piece really expensive. Cool. I get to save money. You know, there's a certain price point that it's like, I'm going to cut it off there and I'm not going to get it. So, you know, if they're selling their 500 Batmans and, you know, Wolverines, go ahead. Doesn't matter to me. So, yeah.
Is there a character?
And now I just want to kind of go back a little bit because you
Okay.
said something like you're going to be long term. You can't see yourself like going out of the hobby. I have like multiple hobbies going. I have statues, collected like volumes,
Mm-hmm.
resin kits. To me, it's like, okay, I have all these characters represented in statue form that I wanted or could get, you know, of ones I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
I think because of these other hobbies, it probably would be easier for me
Mm-hmm.
to get out of statues. You know, like now I'm big into these collected volumes. That's pretty much like you said, every night you read a comic. That's what I do. I don't read watch TV or anything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always reading. You know, all these people are so into streaming services. Oh, Jamie, you gotta watch this and that. It's like I can't.
Mm-hmm.
I want to just pick up my omnibus, go in a corner and read it. You know, to me, it's like I have books to fall back on. I have resin kits to fall back on. That's actually the direction I want to go in is
Mm-hmm.
I want to start building my own stuff now. I want to 3D print. I want to build resin kits. I don't really want to rely on
Companies.
having to always buy these expensive big statues anymore. I want to do my own thing. So I think it would be easier for me to stop buying pre-built, pre-painted statues.
Yeah, I was talking with Ed Bradley the other day. We were talking about the whole thing. It's just come into a place where the technology has come, 3D technology. You can, you don't even have to know how to do ZBrush or to do design. You can
Oh,
simply buy a file from someone for cheap or get it online, even without paying. You have a 3D printer, which are more accessible than ever. You can print your
mhm.
stuff. So, do you think that that is? Do you think that that's something that's going to happen in the future? We're going to see more of that as prices go down, as
Oh,
people.
I'm sure. Oh yeah, I'm sure. You're probably gonna have people going to those who have 3D printers to, print them out for them. And then you're probably going to see more customizers like John Fitchy, or however you say his name.
Yeah.
I think that's going to become bigger and bigger because people are not going to keep paying these higher and higher prices when they have this other option. I mean, it's not as big now, 3D printing. You
Mm-hmm.
can't find like a lot of well-designed statues you do at these, companies like Prime One. You can't find a statue like that to, print.
Mm-hmm.
But, it is getting more and more popular, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it could go in that direction. Maybe that's what'll happen is, companies will do it where it's just 3D files that you would go through companies to print and have, paint. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, I think that there's so many things that one thing that I always tell everybody: do not sit. Nothing is set in stone. Not in this hobby, not in anything in life. And I feel that there's a lot of variables. I don't think personally that statue collecting or this hobby as a whole is going to die out. I think companies will continue to, and it's proven. There's more companies than ever before. There's the market. They, even though through the pandemic they kept doing what they were doing, whether the prices were higher for shipping, whatever, they still were selling their stuff. And they're still we're gonna see more of that, but also we've seen an increase on the custom market. There's more customizers, there's more people selling customs. I still don't think that customs are at the same level, although I've seen some great customs at the same level of what some companies are doing. Of course, we're talking about from the prototypes. Prototypes to final product is a different story. But I don't think that we still there yet. And when you mentioned Prime One, definitely Prime One, it's on another level. They produce so much stuff, but they have these huge teams doing so many different things. But I do see that it's a possibility, like you said, that we are going to see more and more. And I've seen also some of my friends that are actually kind of leaving the hobby as it is, or not collecting as much, and they're getting into painting their own kits or doing more resin stuff. Like I was looking at Chris Bale's B Muda reviews. We were talking the other day too. He was also in the podcast, but he's lately been doing. He started painting, and he's doing amazing. Just painting by himself. Wolverine that he wanted to do another Wolverine, but it's a Wolverine that he wanted to do. I have kids. I think sometimes you buy kids that are unpainted. They've been sitting there on the attic or in the closet for years and haven't gotten to it. And I feel that if at some point I cannot continue on buying like this, then I might just start painting. I always say that I'm going to do it, but I don't do it. I feel that there is the possibility going in that direction. Now really coming to the end of the podcast. I know that we talk about different things here and there. Do you still have fun with this hobby or with any hobby? Because I also collect books, all that. Do you still have fun collecting?
Not in the same way. Early on, there was, like I said, way more enthusiasm. God, I remember when, pieces would go up for pre-order and everybody had to be online that second, you had to order it, otherwise you'd miss out. And there was just so much like enthusiasm back then. And, if you snagged one of those sideshow pieces, and, before it sold out in 5 minutes, it was just so cool. And events were so much grander, back in the day, like Spooktacular. Oh my God. Back in
Mm-hmm.
the day, that event was so cool. You
Mm-hmm.
were literally like glued to your computer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, I enjoy, I have a group of friends that we're in a chat on Facebook,
Mm-hmm.
and we do a lot of chatting, and we kind of have enthusiasm for the pieces that we're collecting. I love the pieces I get. I just don't feel like I can enjoy them right now just because of my living situation.
Mm-hmm.
I think if I had them out on display, I'd be like, oh, you know what? There'd be just way more love for it than I have right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just in a kind of a bad place right now just because I can't display anything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I can't really say. I'm sure if I could, if I had cabinets, I was in my own house, had all my collection on display, I'd feel way different. I would,
Mm-hmm.
still be happy, enthusiastic about the hobby.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just not at that point right now. Like having Angelus up there, that's awesome.
Yes.
I love it. I gotta have at least one statue out,
At least
it'd be so
once,
sad.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So she's kind of keeping me in it right now. She's my tie to my collection.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, yeah, I don't know. I think more of my enthusiasm right now is into the like omnibuses, the books right
Mm.
now than statues. So
Which has been amazing too. Like
yeah,
Marvel, particularly Marvel, but also DC and the other companies. Which is it really see how everything evolves because the comic industry was hurting for a bit because the cost of single issues is really high, the highest there's ever been, and I don't think it's accessible anymore. But on the other side, they printing out all these collections,
yeah,
omnibuses, hardcover collections, which to me it's the best way to read some of these comics. Although
oh
I
yeah,
read digitally too, but I love to collect, and it's like every week there's new collections. So there's so much, and it seems to me that that's how the comic industry has evolved into that. Um, it's interesting. Like you said, I think what I personally believe that as a collector, I collect many things. Whether it's action figures, whether it's hot toys, whether it's statues, whether it's diecast, whether it's whatever. I think I've been collecting a lot of things since I was a kid. I just have that bug for collecting, and I love the arts. And I think that one way or the other, the hobby is gonna evolve. But like you said, I don't really have the same enthusiasm that I had when I was
hmm
younger
yeah.
doing it. Um, what would change in order to bring that into? Do you think that that can change, that you can have that same enthusiasm back? Maybe when you have a home, but what other factors you think can bring that enthusiasm?
Um, one thing I really miss is like the events. Like Sideshow, they used to have these really cool events. Everybody would come together and we'd all be happy and oh my God, did you see? There's just so much
Mm-hmm.
enthusiasm and I wish companies would bring events like that back. That was so neat.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, there really isn't anything like that. Any of like the sideshow events now, I don't even know when they have them anymore. I don't pay attention because all it is um, like two YouTube videos and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, uh,
Yeah, that's the thing.
mm,
Like you said, with the Sideshow Con, for example, the most recent Sideshow Cons that they do, which is online events,
yeah,
and most of the videos that they have, they do the live videos, but it's promoting somebody else's work. And it was like, okay,
yeah, it
and
is. Yeah,
and I'm like, okay,
pretty
which
much.
I'm glad to see it in person, but at the same time, I feel like I had come to see Sideshow. I want to see
Right. Yep.
Sideshow,
That
and I don't want to see another Wolverine.
and we're not the only ones that think that. I hear that quite a bit. It's like, why are they showing all these other companies? We want to see what you're producing,
Mhm.
I don't want to see these like PVC toys. I want to see statues.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
they have
So,
some like Barbie dolls that they have or something. That I was like, okay, this is
yeah.
just way, or like they selling like things that to me had nothing to do with Sideshow. Because when I think about Sideshow, when it comes to mind, it's that era where Sideshow was the king at the top of everything, and it was the leader in the market, the one that will blow your mind with whatever they were coming out. And now it's just like, okay, whatever, it's just the same thing that we had seen before. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think that some of that enthusiasm has been curbed or has been put aside because of the way they approaching their the way they promoting themselves too.
Mhm.
Um, so now you're coming to the end right now to the end of this video. What would be your advice to any collector? It could be, in this case, women, because I know women that maybe are watching or listening, or girls that are getting into this and they want to be collectors. In general, to any person, it doesn't matter the gender, that wants to be a collector. Based on your experience, what would you advise them to do as they get into this?
Um, Wait. You know, take your time maybe. Um, like when a new shiny piece comes up, don't just buy it. I always like to kind of push stuff off now and think about it. Like I really love the Prime One Constantine. I want it
Mm,
so bad. And I'm like, yeah, I want it bad because that's kind of my focus now. I'm reading like Justice League Dark, you
mm-hmm,
know, and all these comics with him. And that's just my thing right now, my focus. It's like I'm just gonna push him off for about 6 months and we'll see if I still want him. That's a smart thing to do.
mm,
What is that? Like impulse buy? Don't do it.
good. Yeah.
Do not do it. And you know, we used to have that frame of mind back in the day. You know, the fear of missing out. You know,
Yeah.
because we had low edition
Correct.
sizes, and you know, I always had that frame of mind. Oh, I have to buy it now. You know, pre-order right away. You don't have to do that now. Pieces really do not sell out. You
Mm-mm.
know, just take your time, you know, like the Prime One Catwoman that I got. Look at, what's the other company? They brought out a 1/3 Catwoman too. There's all these companies producing the same characters.
Yeah, there's like
Slow down.
collectibles. Yeah.
Yeah, just slow down. There could be a better one coming. Just push it off for a few months. You know,
Mm-hmm.
take your time, think. That's my advice. Don't be a completist. No one needs to be a completist anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Yeah, so just take your time. There's plenty of product out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Hey, that's really good advice. That's good advice. That's
Yeah.
really sound. I want to say, Jamie, thank you very much. Again, I appreciate
Oh,
having
thank
this
you.
conversation with you. Thank you for taking the opportunity. I always respect
I
it.
hope I wasn't old and boring.
No, no, you sounded good. I feel that I admire you because I know that you've been here. I don't really say that lightly. I've been in this hobby for long enough to kind of know that people have been here long enough, and I know that with time also comes experience, and you are seasoned in in the collectible world, so you know a lot of things that I know when it comes what your opinion comes from a place of wisdom, based on the experience of the years that you've been doing this. Something that sometimes it's hard for me to take from some people, even on social media, even on YouTube, that they haven't been here long enough, so their opinion is just based on the moment because they don't
Right, yeah.
have the record to show. And I know you have the record to show because you've been involved in the hobby for a long time. Now, if anyone is interested, because I know you were doing a blog with some friends too at some point not long ago. I think you were writing or something for.
Yeah, we started like I wanted to get a group of collectors going and do reviews and get content created, and there just wasn't the enthusiasm for it. And then, you know, you got so many different people coming together and we'd clash and it just didn't work out, sadly. And then I also started my own YouTube channel and,
You did?
you know, COVID happened and it's like I'm not getting any statues in. I have no content.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I started collecting books. I'm like, well, maybe I should do book reviews.
That
And
would be good.
yeah, but my enthusiasm, you know, I'm not good at like video editing.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it was just too much time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just need some kind of push to do it, you know. I don't know.
Now, if there's a
It just
place,
feels like a lot of work.
it is a lot of work. Yes, it is. Now, if there's any place where people can see what you're doing or see your collection, or a place where you like to share stuff in social media that you like to hang out, or do you have Instagram? I think you do. I'm not sure if you do.
Do I? Think so. I really don't get on
And
anything
yeah,
besides Facebook and YouTube.
okay.
So, yeah.
Well, I'll have your link for your YouTube channel. You never know, you might start producing content at some point.
Yeah.
But again, Jamie, thank you very much. And I know that today you've been dealing with a cold, so I know that.
Yep.
But you still came to the interview, so I do appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yep.
All
Thank
right.
you.
All right. Well, my friends, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a like if you're watching this in YouTube. If you're listening through the different platforms, also you can share that with your friends through social media. All the links are in the description. All the stuff that we talk about today. Also, if there's any links or anything, is going to be on the description. My friends, God bless you. Take care. I will talk to you. We will talk to you again. Bye bye.